This part of the webinar will be basically safe investing and understanding retirement planning. You must understand that almost everything you have been taught about money and investing and even retirement keeps you poor while making other people rich. A lot of things you learned may not be true. Which of these statements do you think are true? Pay yourself first and save and invest. Why pay off a 4% interest loan when you can make 7% investing? Buy term insurance and invest the difference. You need an emergency fund. You need to budget. You should get a 529 plan early to fund your children's college education. You need a mortgage to save taxes. To get the best returns, you need a financial advisor to invest for you. Maximize your 401k early, and making money will make you happy. When you really look at each one of these things, all of these statements are false, and you will learn more about that over the next two segments of this program. We have to change our financial encodings that we've been trained, or else we can never reach financial freedom. There has to be a paradigm shift. You can quickly become financially free when you know the secret of making over 100% return on your money guaranteed without risk, with no tax consequences. And we all know it, but you just do not understand it. So let's go ahead and ask you, what is your mortgage interest rate? Most of you may say 3.5%, 4%, 5%, or even 6%. And so if you had a 5% interest rate on $3,000 payment, that means $150 that month would go towards your interest. But this is a big sham. It's a lie. When you understand this, you'll find the fastest way to become wealthy. So let's look at Dr. Calculator, the mortgage calculator. So this is a $300,000 mortgage here, 30 years, 4.8%, and you can figure your own out. And the individual's paying $1,574. Now, if 4.8% of $1,574 is $75, that is what they should pay in interest. But when you look at this, really, only $374 goes to principal and $1,200 goes to interest. That's over 300% interest, not 4.8% interest. So this is important. You have to understand that the majority of the payments at the beginning of loans up to the first 18 years is over 100% interest. So if you paid another $375, you would have eliminated almost $1,200 in interest. It's that simple. You would have then received a 300% return on your money, guaranteed without risk. I mean, this is hard to understand, but most people have been encoded just the opposite, so people can keep you in debt forever. And then they say, oh, no, you want a mortgage because you can write off the interest. Yeah, look at all the interest that first year. 14,208. You can't even write this off, because if you do, you will lose out on the $24,000 standard deduction. You either have to write off the interest and lose your $24,000 in 2019, or you take the $24,000. So there really is no tax deduction. Student debt is a sham. In the past, let's say this $300,000 student loan to be paid off over 30 years, and this is 7.9%. This is a real case, a lady dentist, and she was paying close to $2,200 a month. When you looked at her first payment that year, only around 2,500 paid the principal and 23,000 went to interest. She'll never see that. If she could have paid another 2,500, she would have made 23,000. Actually, she would have made 30,000 because she had to earn 30,000, pay tax on it, so that you can give the bank interest of $23,000. And that is what you needed to do. So we need to live like a student until your debt is paid off. Remember, every $10,000 you owe uh, will initially pay, you'll have to pay back $100,000 in interest. Kind of a concept you need to remember. So my recommendation in this case, if you paid 2,100 over 30 years, you would be paying a total of almost 500,000 in interest. And remember, you have to earn around 600,000 to pay tax on it, so you can pay this amount of interest. But if you could just add another 4,000 a month and pay 6,000, or earn 100,000, pay tax on it, pay 6,000 a month, you could be debt free in 5 years and save over 420,000. You'll never have to pay. Live like a student till this is paid off. Initially, when you get out of school, make sure you're making money. Go to White Coat Investor, and they'll show you different places where you can get lower rates on your loans. I recommend that. I had one doctor, a senior, a lady dentist, in her late 40s, and she has done very well. She had been completely out of debt, but then she bought this building. She was telling me, look, it's this 1.5 million, and it's free money. I'm getting it at 1%, 1.3%. And boy, isn't that a great deal? And I said, well, why don't we go ahead and look? And we figured this out through Dr. Calculator, that her real interest the first year was 30%, not 1.3%. And so she decided, because she had money in the bank, instead of earning 0%, she chose to earn 30%. Over that years of this mortgage, over a 20-year period, she would be paying a total or an average of 12%. So there is no tax write-off on this either, on the interest. You need to get the right CPA and bookkeeper. Most people understand what you should pay. I mean, I think everyone should learn how to do their own QuickBooks initially, but then bring in a bookkeeper to do it for you, because you make much more money doing dentistry. These ideas of payroll service, a lot of you out there may be paying $2,800, $3,500 for payroll service when you could just get the $500 addition to QuickBooks each year, and they'll do your payroll for you. And actually, it'll probably be more accurate than some of the other places you go. My bookkeeper charges $36 an hour, and they have basically a large practice plus a few other things that they do. And it costs me about $1,900 a year for a bookkeeper. I mean, how many crowns does it take you to do to have a bookkeeper for an entire year? CPA, my CPA charges between $2,000 and $4,000 for plus tax preparation of $3,000, and for a total of $7,000. This is a fair price. They know what they're doing. I have them available, but I see so many people going to CPAs and where they pay $800 or $900 a month, or $20,000 a year. So know what you need to pay. My total business expense for my CPA and bookkeeper is around $6,700. This is my bookkeeper in Washington, if anyone needs a good bookkeeper. So the fastest way to become rich, which we talked about, is to pay off debt where you're making over 100% return. And then you can put your money elsewhere, and we'll talk about where to put your money. Remember, use the snowball approach, as you learned earlier in this webinar series. Safe investing, retirement planning. So I'm going to talk about investing. Now, the following investing information I found to be helpful. I'm not engaged in rendering professional services. If you require personal assistance or advice, seek a competent professional. I specifically disclaim any responsibility for any loss, liability, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of the contents of this website. That's called a disclaimer. Warren Buffett, my good friend, he says rule number one, don't lose money, and rule number two, see rule number one. There are many doctors out there that try to get rich fast. They do day trading in the market. They all lose. Not paying taxes scheme. I mean, I don't want to give the government any bonus or extra money, but I do want to pay my taxes. And by the way, I want to pay more taxes than anybody because it means I'm making more money than everybody. So paying brokerage and advisory fees will take 70% of the money you earn in those fees. Any financial advice or investment opportunity that you don't completely understand, don't do it. It's as simple. You don't need to risk it. When you're debt free, it does not take much money to live, and I'm going to show you where you can place that money. So if you really look at investments over the past 10 years, the money you have in your bank pays nothing, zero. You might have it in a savings account, and that pays probably 0.02%, not even 1%. The average fixed investor over the past 20 years has earned about 3.88% in the market. And that's the average, and I guarantee you are probably close to average. Your home, although it does go up about 1 to 5% a year, inflation is about 2.4%. Usually a home goes up with at least inflation. If you want to be safe, some people put say it in short-term bonds, like which are going about 2.4%, but they are taxed, and you will pay, capital gains on those taxes. Or the S&P 500, which are also taxed, and you will pay capital gains on those investments also. What I'm going to talk about in the next chapter is personal bank. This is a high cash value whole life insurance policy where you will be earning 4% to 6% in the tax deferred, and you're able to take out the money tax free. And we'll talk about that. Remember, investments, when you pay investment fees, a 2% will cost you probably 50% of your return. And 3% to 4% they may take 70% of your return. And then I always recommend you raise your practice fees maybe 2 to 3% once in January, probably once in July, even though you can't do it with some of your insurances. This will give you a 10 to 20% more money in your take-home pay. Paying off debt is like I said, making 100%. I showed you paying off debt for school loans like 1,000% return guaranteed. And then, of course, another way that I want to remind you is to get a good coach. In my book, I make some recommendations of good coaches. And if you can increase your ability to produce maybe additional 20% more, it will probably give you another 80% on your bottom line if you're in this 80% or 70% overhead. And you do that over the next few years, you can actually, it could be worth 1,000%. Here is Mike Abernathy, one of my favorite coaches I've worked with, and for general dentists. He's with Summit Practice Solutions, and here's the stuff. You just go to that website, you can get his free book. It's called The Super General Dentist. It came out again, it's been updated, second edition, and it's just an excellent book about everything you really need to know about getting your practice in good shape. And also, there's they can also send you practice analysis here that they will look at your practice and help you determine if you're, would be a good candidate for them to coach. And their coaching basically is 1 month at a time. If you're not getting the results you feel like it, you just quit. But I will guarantee you, I can't guarantee anything, we don't know who you are, but majority of people would do very well and probably get a 100 or even 1,000% return on the money you spend with them. Each year, remember, if you go up, 20% one year and you go up another 20% another year, it all every year you just get better and better. And all this extra money is what you're going to use to pay off your debts and become debt free. Once you're debt free, then we'll show you how to put your money safely. There's John Bogle who wrote the book Clash of Cultures. And in the old days, it was more about investing, like Warren Buffett. You hold on good investments that you buy at a low price. And now it's been more about speculation. And the problem with this is we are become forced capitalists. If we want to put our money someplace, we think we have to put in market. We do not. It's just that we do not. And we can put our money safely and make 4 to 6% tax deferred without a 401k and without the market. And I'll show you what to do about that. So Tony Robbins wrote the book Unshakable, and he points out that in non-taxable accounts, in mutual funds, you're paying about 3%, a little over 3% in fees, and in taxable accounts, 4%. That will take 70% of your money. Here's an example of a person that I was working with, and I recommend he go to America's Best 401k and compare his program with theirs. And he had a 1.4 million in his account, and he contributed 100,000 each year. If they both made 7%, America's Best charges 0.5% for their to manage the program. This other company, their fees were 1.73%, which doesn't sound too bad. So the difference actually was basically 1.23%. And that 1.323% over 20 years, if they got the same amount of return, would add or detract $1.7 million that doctor would have, just that 1.23%. Over a 30-year period, it would cost a doctor $4.93 million, $4.93 million if just that 1.23%. These percentages matter, and you have to understand that if you're going to be financially free. And if you want to compare what you have, go to showmethefees.com and just compare your 401k and see. They'll show you exactly the same thing as this, what you could make. Understand advisors, brokers, and mutual fund managers. You have to understand these are salespeople. They charge 1 to 3% of the entire portfolio, even when you lose money. So if they charge 2% and the market goes up, the market's up 4%, they'll take 50% of your money. It's as simple as that. And like 2018, when it was negative, they still got their 2%. So eventually they'll take 50 to 70% of all your gains. They will continually buy and sell stocks, resulting in transaction fees and taxes, and you're losing all the time. They will confuse you with different terms. We need to be modern portfolio design. We have to create an asset allocation that works best for you. No, you don't. You can learn this on your own, and it's very simple. You just have to either buy 1 or 2 funds and you are done. Because if you just bought the S&P 500 index fund or the U.S. total stock market, you would do better than 96% of these actively managed fund managers. Let me tell you a story of Rebecca and Denny. Rebecca was married to a dentist, but the doctor died. And 3 years before, Denny was going out with her. And so she was a little confused, and she went to one of these big companies to say, here's all the money I have, but please be safe and conservative with the money. The broker or the advisor immediately placed her in an actively managed account where they make so much money, took 1% of everything, plus there were fees inside the account for loaded funds and things like that. In mid 2013, my friend and his new wife tried to get a handle on the returns that she made with this advisor. I asked her three questions. Number one, what was the return in the managed portfolio in 2013? He had it a whole year. And what was the S&P 500 return in 2013? So basically, it was 5% that they earned, and the S&P during that same time frame made 32.31%. It was a great year for the S&P, but a terrible year for Rebecca. And then they asked, how much did the advisor get? What were the total fees? It was over $28,000. This is the problem with the financial industry, and you have to be aware of this. William Bernstein wrote this book. He's actually a physician, The Investor's Manifesto. You are engaged in a life and death struggle with the financial service. Every dollar in fees, expenses, and spreads you pay them comes directly out of your pocket. Act as if every broker, insurance salesman, mutual fund salesperson, or financial advisor you encounter is a hardened criminal, and just stick to low-cost index funds such as the S&P 500, and you'll do fine. Here's an example of another doctor that I worked with. These were the money he put each year into the 401k. He had a balance of 1.2 million in this account in 2007, 406. But this was the return that his company, is a big, financial company, got him. If he would have just put it in the S&P 500, he would have had, and did nothing else, an additional 863,000 in 6 years. You need to understand how to invest on your own. But the best investment, I can't overemphasize, is taking your money and paying off debt. And you can go to debt-free dentist, and you can actually find the same form, and you can figure out what your broker's done for you, if you like. There are other things here about the personal bank, about looking up the document locator, which I would print out, and this is where everything is. Where do you have your passport, your wills, power of attorney? Where are all of these things? And you should have these things. And then you should also, what are your passwords for your computer? Something happens to you or your spouse should have all her information there. If something happens to both of you, someone should know where all these things are. And it's a great deal. Also, you can sit down, write out how much do you have in your stocks and bonds, your retirement, your practice worth, and things like that. And, every year I update this. It's important to have good estate planning and asset protection. Everyone should have a will. Everyone should have a durable power of attorney for healthcare and finances. You should have a revocable living trust. This is Elvis when he died in 1977. His total assets were worth about 10 million because he didn't have these things. Basically, his daughter got about 3 million, and the rest went to attorneys, judges, courts, state, and everything else because he did not, put his estate in order. And I highly recommend you go to a local attorney that does these things, and they're not that expensive to get them done. So once you're debt free, and once you put money in a personal bank, which we'll talk about in the next segment, and you have extra money and you want to invest in the market, then go to Schwab or Vanguard. Schwab is probably the easiest. They have no commissions, and and they have very low rates on these index funds, and they're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You call them, or you can go locally. There's usually a Schwab advisor. Basically, once debt free, set up an account, talk to Schwab agent for your help. How to do this. Transfer if you're with these large companies charging large fees. Just transfer. Just tell your Schwab agent to move everything over and then sell them without any fees with Schwab. And then you don't have to even talk to your old advisor. Then decide what to do with the money. It's real simple. It's either in money market accounts or the S&P 500 or the U.S. total stock market. And I always wait for a 10% drop before it. Right now, we're at all-time high in the market. And there's what's called risk tolerance. I mean, remember, once we're debt free, we have a job that makes money in dentistry, we have it made. We don't have to risk it or try to take chances. Just let's get 5% tax free and be very happy with that. So when you lay your head down to the pillow at night and you're thinking about your stock portfolio, remove some of the stocks out of that and put it in safety so that you can fall asleep peacefully. If you understand the market, we've had long-term bear markets where basically from 29 to 1949, it took 20 years to finally reach an average about 1.2%. And there was a big, bull market for a while. In 66 to 82, there was a long bear market. And then from 82 to 2000, a long bull market. And then there was the lost decade from 2000 to 2012, where the market actually was about 1.2%. And we don't know when these things are happening. And this is what the lost decade looked like. From 2000, the value of the S&P 500 was about the same as it ended up in 2013. The return was about, with dividends, about 2.23%. And but now look at where we're at. We have the lost decade, and but right now, look at this. We're at an all-time high. As I speak today, we're at an all-time high, and but of course we were at all-time high in year 2000. You saw what happened, and then in 2007 and 2000 we dropped 50% in the market. We don't know, these things can happen, and in 2007 another 50%. And basically last Christmas Eve, we had dropped down to 20% from the high. And that was a great way to see money drop 20%, right? Great time to buy, by the way. That's the time to buy. And over the last year and a half, it's been up and down, up and down. Do you want to live your life this way? Let's find a place where we can put our money safely. We never worry about the ups and downs of the market. We're having enough in protection of our family. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. Asset allocation. People say, okay, how much goes into bonds and stocks? And they will throw this out that you need so much in, the REITs and cash and international stocks and all that stuff. Really, this is just a way to confuse you. If you stay with as the average investor, we're making 3.88% annually. I mean, this is hardly keeps up with inflation. So keep asset allocation safe and simple. So remember, when you're debt free, all your basically your paid off home, your practice building, your paid off practice, your income you're making from your practice, money in your Schwab account and money in your personal bank. I mean, this is all safe. It goes up with inflation. It's adjusted with inflation. So when your house is paid off, you don't have to pay a mortgage. And all that money that was being spent and all that interest is yours. And so you have all this cash. So where do you put that safely? And you don't have to take a risk anymore. And eventually, you'll fill up your personal bank, which is basically a big savings cash account that you will have to buy things. And we'll talk more about that next. And maybe have 10 to 20% in index fund. And just sleep at night. Enjoy your life. So retirement planning. Okay, the way we do this is we pay off all debts. If we have a matching 401k, we can go ahead and put money in there. But then we put our money in a personal bank first before we invest anywhere else in these SEP IRAs or whatever. But if you do have a 401k, I would recommend comparing the expenses with America's Best 401k. Because really, retirement's a big lie. The idea of putting money away The problem with tax deferred investing, taxes are not eliminated. Yes, you get away, but the government is going to get you. And sometimes you might be paying 30% now, but when you're out, the taxes may be higher the way this government's working. You might be paying 35 or 60% on the money. You can lose, remember, just by having advisors 50 to 70% of your return with 2 to 3 percent fees with actively managed funds. Your money is locked up like in a prison. You can't even get it to your 59.5 without penalty. You must also take out minimum distributions when you're 70.5, or you will pay a large penalty. Remember, the market has only averaged 3.88% over the past 20 years. Is it really worth it? You cannot write off losses in retirement plan. And remember, the government can change the rules anytime. As an owner, you must pay also expenses for your plan plus, for your employees. It's best to have a debt reduction plan instead for your employees. And when I compared, to $100,000 a year going into basically a retirement plan, in this one, you're paying 6.5% because you have to pay for the 401k. Here it's 7%, but here you've paid taxes of 30%. That's why the contribution is 5,800 instead of 8,300. And when you look at this, after a period of time, after 30 years, the amount of money you earned was 9,000. You About 90% of that is yours, so that's this. Then you pay 30% tax, and that's what you get in your 401k account. And you can't get that until you're 59.5. But in a taxable account, basically you've already paid the taxes on it, and so you know, you're paying like 20% in capital gains, and so basically you can have more money in the taxable account. Remember, the advantages of these non-IRA accounts is they're qualified dividends and long-term capital gains, okay? And they're taxed at 10 to 15%. You can write off losses, you can withdraw money without penalty, you have complete control of the money, and government does not have control of your investments. So in the next segment, we're going to talk about creating your own personal bank. When we do that, this is a way to place money where you're going to earn basically 4 to 6% tax deferred, and you're able to take this money out tax free and use it to buy things and things like that. It's just a very safe way to put your money securely and never worry about the market again. And we'll talk about that next.